Welcome back, guys, to Spurs Live. We are joined by Josh and Matthew from Spurs Live. How are we doing, lads? How are we doing?
Yeah, all good, mate. All good.
Yeah, good. It's been a
Josh,
while. Glad to be back on.
it's been a while. I'll tell you what, it's been a while. And look, guys, talking about something that we haven't seen in a long time, we are actually going to watch Tottenham Hotspur. Finally, we are going to watch Hotspur in a pre-season game versus West Ham. Look, it's going to be an interesting one. We're going to get into it all in a second. Before we start, guys, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. And for more and all the latest updates, follow our social media. All the tags are around everyone's little handle, I guess. But guys, tomorrow, I think it's at 11 o'clock UK time. It's Tottenham Hotspur versus West Ham United. Big game in terms of pre-season wise because of the standards and the levels. Obviously, we will see a lot of the youth coming in. Matthew, I'm going to come to you first. We got a lot of players that some would want to see start, some would want to see on the bench. Who are you looking forward to in terms of playing or starting in the lineup? Who are you looking forward to seeing tomorrow versus West Ham?
So there's 4 players in particular I'm really interested in seeing.
Yeah.
First one, controversial, but Ndombele.
Yes, yes.
Right.
Yep.
He is the most frustrating player, and I don't know why I like him, but
Yeah.
He's so annoying, and he's probably going to be a flop again this season, and we eventually see the back of him. But I just want to see if Ange's finally got something out of him. I really want to see Ndombele, right?
Do you think he will?
I saw a little clip of him doing keepy uppies with Basuma in the changing rooms, and I'm like, this guy's got skills. This guy has got the talent. This guy's got everything we need in that anchor midfield role, and we just need to get it out of him. But we'll wait and see. Secondly, a very obvious one, James Maddison. He's new to the team, and I'm really excited to see, obviously, what he brings to the team, what he can do, and hopefully really see how he links with our forwards and just gives us that dimension that we've been missing for 3 or 4 years, because we haven't had that attacking midfielder to give that sort of cohesion between the forwards and the midfield. We've not had that person breaking the line. So it's really important. And then the final 2 that I'm really excited to see is actually Kulusevski and Son. And the reason being is because they've both come off the back of a very difficult season. Son has been nowhere near the standard that we've come to expect from him. Like, he's been absolutely brilliant. He won the Golden Boot, and then last year he just wasn't as good, but he did suffer with injury. Kulusevski had a few issues, but again, last season he was nowhere near as good as when he'd come in the year before and just set the team on fire. So I'm really looking forward to see if we've got those 2 back to their best, and that's what I'm hoping for.
Having them 2 back to the best will definitely bolster Tottenham Hotspur attack, and will help us, score more goals. Even though last year, defensively we were absolutely terrible with conceding 63 goals, but offensively, if you could say, Son and Kulusevski were missing a lot. They were missing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Josh, who are you looking forward to seeing in the game versus West Ham? Matthew said James Maddison, Tanguy Ndombele, Son and Kulusevski, top players, absolute top players. Who have you gone with in terms of players you want to see?
Yeah, I think the thing is so interesting because there's almost every player you could pick on, and there is something to sort of learn about them this pre-season, and that's the thing with this Ange rebuild. I want to see everyone. I'm interested to see what everyone's got, who wants it, who wants to get into the new rebuild, and who wants to invest, and who's sort of clocked out and is ready for their move. Matthew said Ndombele, I've got to touch on it as well. I love him to pieces. He's one of those, I delude myself every year that we're going to get the best of him because he's just so talented. Like, like Matthew said, the clips with Basuma earlier today, but then also there's just clips of him in training. He's flicking the ball over players' heads. He's megging them multiple times, going back for more. But also we've seen some clips pre-season. He's sprinting. He's working so hard back and forth in these little drills that Ange's setting up, where the ball, as soon as you score, the ball's back in play and you've got to sprint back and defend. And he's part of it, which we haven't really seen before from him. And it just seems like his attitude's changing a little bit. Like, I don't know if everyone saw Ali Gold tweeted earlier that he went down injured. 2 minutes later, he was back up assisting Kane. He just seems like he's got something to prove. He wants it a little bit more. And he's such a useful player. I think he can be such a useful player for us. And that's another reason Ange is here, is to turn problems into solutions. And what a solution Ndombele would be if he gets the best out of it.
He is essentially the replacement for Moussa Dembele.
Yeah. And we've been lacking. We've been dying out for him. It seems like this is the year to replace a lot of those players. Maddison is the Eriksen replacement we've been crying for years.
Yeah.
You know, we're still trying to get the centre backs in because we've never replaced Jan or Toby since they've left. But then, so moving on to another midfielder that I've just touched on slightly, Basuma. He's probably the player that I'm looking out for the most this pre-season. I don't know about everyone else. It just feels completely different. On the club's media team, I'm seeing him constantly, which is so different to Conte. We barely saw him in pre-season last year. We saw nothing about him. Every time one of the other players speaks, they speak about Basuma at the minute. Everyone around the club is loving him. He seems like the glue that's holding the dressing room together at the minute. And we just didn't see the best of him last year. Conte clearly didn't like him. He was constantly complaining about his defensive output and his tactical awareness, and that he just didn't fit. But in this Ange system, in that sort of 6, just in front of the centre backs, in that single pivot role, I think it's perfect for him. He's so press resistant.
Well,
do you think that's the best?
Are we going to play him in a 6 or an 8?
That's exactly what I was going to say. What is the best position? What's the best position for him then?
He can play both, but I think he'll play the 6. I think his ability to pick the ball up from deep, beat any press that it comes up against him, and sort of just get it into the feet of a player like a Maddison or Ndombele, who's got a bit more sort of creative flair, a bit better ability when it comes to breaking the lines, picking up the ball in the half spaces. I think Basuma suits that 6 pivot to a T. I think it's perfect for him. And I think if he can stay fit, I'm really excited to see we use this phrase, it's like a new signing. We didn't see him last year properly. We didn't see the Brighton Basuma that we were promised, really. So I'm excited to see him rejuvenate. Moving on, Christian Romero might not be one that everyone was thinking about, but last season we didn't see the best of Romero. You know, considering the standards he set himself the season before, he didn't quite reach them, and that could be for a number of reasons. I know a lot of sort of Spurs fans were complaining that he seems to sort of put Spurs second, Argentina first. You know, he seems to feign injury sometimes. But, you know, as far as I'm concerned, the season he signed for us, he was bordering world-class levels in his performances. And he was playing in a back 3 next to Eric Dyer and Ben Davies, or some weeks Davinson Sanchez. And there was no consistency around him last year. And I don't blame him for his poor performances in that defence. I don't think anyone particularly stood out last year defensively. But it'd be interesting to see him back in a back 4 system, to see how he does on the ball, because he'll be receiving the ball to his feet.
How do you think he will do, guys? How do you guys think Romero will do in his new back 4?
I think it'd be fine if his performances like they were for the Argentinian squad in the World Cup. I think it'd be fine. But it all depends on who's partnering him. I think that's the big question around Romero, is who's going to partner him. Because if it's Dyer again, then I think you have to do a lot of making up for it. Exactly the same. Romero will be chasing balls over the top because Dyer just can't get to them. And he'll be trying to make up and cover for everyone else's mistakes. And then he seems to make a lot of his own ones because he's trying to do too much. But I think he'll be fine. The way,
I completely agree with you. Like, I think the thing with Romero is he needs a world-class centre-back paired with him. He also needs quick.
Yeah.
He needs quick right backs and left backs who are quick to recover. They can get forward but get back, like the Kyle Walker that we had in the past, right? Yeah. But Romero needs that because he is he's a top quality centre back. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, he showed that in the World Cup.
Yeah.
Right. He is absolutely brilliant, but he needs help. So, I mean, if we can get Mickey van der Ven in, then suddenly he's got an absolutely rapid centre-back playing with him, and suddenly there's less pressure on him to be essentially the only defender.
Exactly.
Right?
He loves what you get Romero. He's always going to want to be the one to step out of the pair. He's always going to be the one to go in for the tackle and have someone else mop up after him. He can't do both roles, which is what he was doing last year. He was making the tackle and then making the recovery off of the second ball.
Exactly.
That in my opinion exposed him the most. Sorry, just before, and I think that exposed him the most because it's one thing if you can go out, if you can allow yourself to go out. Romero, in the situation last year, had Dyer next to him, had Lenglet next to him. Yeah. You would think that two centre backs is enough to cover for Romero, but not with the quality they had. Sorry, Josh. Yeah, who was your next one?
Well, it leads on nicely talking about the fullbacks because my last player that I put in my 4 is Pedro Porro.
Okay.
A lot of speculation this year about whether he'll even play right back or whether he was going to sort of transition to the right wing because his defensive frailties last year were at the forefront. And the one time he played in the back 4 versus Newcastle, we all know what happened. 5 down after 20 minutes and Joelinton was tearing him apart. And it's a very different system and position that Ange's going to want him in. He's going to have to play a high line constantly, which is fine because of his pace, but positionally, he's going to have to invert at times. He's going to have to go wide and overlap at times. But because there's now just a 4, because Ange isn't going to play with the back 3. He's never played with one before, really. He's not going to do it now. Yeah. He has a lot more defensive sort of responsibility, especially if you're playing Udogie on the other side rather than Davies or Reguilon. They both want to go. You can't both go at the same time. And if they do, you have to get back, especially like we said with Romero being as aggressive as he is. He's going to step out and you're going to have to be there to cover him.
But then the question I ask is, yes, you're right, but I'm not going to lie, that's come from experience from negative managers.
Yeah.
The last 2-3 managers we've had have been negative footballers. So you see them getting forwards, but then it's negative footballs. So actually, could Udogie and Porro slot into that role if we're playing in an aggressive setup with Postecoglou's 4-3-3? And actually, they might be capable of doing it if we're playing this high-speed pressing football that Postecoglou wants.
I think they might have to, though. Sorry, Matthew, go on, continue. I was going to say, I think they might have to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think if they are being made to do that in this high-speed pressing game, I think it could potentially allow Porro and Udogie to be perfect right back and left back in a back 4, as long as we are playing that right style. And it gives them a chance to get forward with our fast attacks. But then when it breaks down, they're quick enough to get back.
The difference will be we'll be on the ball a lot more this year, or we'll be expected to be on the ball a lot more.
And from there, we need Bissouma. Bissouma is going to be the key one for this whole ball possession game that we want to play. And just to touch on that whole wing back situation, I think at times we will see Bissouma drop back as if he's playing a Dyer CDM role, if you understand what I'm saying. I think there will be times where Bissouma will drop so deep, as in deep to defend, to allow the fullbacks to go up in times. But look, guys,
this is role.
Exactly, basically. And okay, so I've got 4 names here. I'm just going to go very quickly over 2 because we've already mentioned them. So one's James Maddison for obvious reasons, new signing, the key element to this whole Tottenham Hotspur team, in my opinion, and just a new signing in general, new refreshment. I think also Tanguy and Ndombele, as we all mentioned, one to watch. It's in my opinion, it's not the fact that I think he will do well or I know he will do well. It's just the fact to see if he is going to do well, because we don't really know what's going to happen. We don't really know if Ange Postecoglou is going to be playing Tanguy and Ndombele. Who knows? I just want to see if Tanguy and Ndombele can adapt to the system of Ange Postecoglou. That's just in my head. So the 2 that I'm actually very much fixated on is two new signings in a way. So I'm going to start with Destiny and Doji. I think that's the one I'm going to be watching pretty harshly throughout the whole time. I think he's one who's really interesting just because the age, the pace he will bring to Tottenham Hotspur, and just it will lighten up the left back position. Because I was on a stream the other day talking about the positions that Tottenham Hotspur need to adapt, need to develop, and need to improve on. And the left back was brought up. So something that, in my opinion, I'm like, but we got Destiny Doji, a new player. Let's give him time in the preseason. I think he is an attacking option in terms of going forward, because he's a left back who has unbelievable pace, unbelievable dribbling. I'm not too sure about the shooting, but the dribbling and pace he definitely has. So in terms of the Destiny Doji, that's 100% I'll be watching. Another one that I'm surprised no one's actually mentioned is Vicario. There we go, Josh. I got his name correct. Vicario. I think he's gonna be. I think he's gonna be a great goalkeeper. But he needs to be tested. I want to see Antonio hit a ball at him. I really do. I want to see the likes of that Ben Rama hitting a ball at him. I want to see these players hitting balls at Vicario, so we can see what he's like. I think what's also important, and both of you have heard me say this previously, is the deflections off his saves. That's what I will also be looking at to see who will be the first to react to that. Will it be Dyer? Will it be Romero? Will it be Vicario himself coming out? So look, guys, I want to ask you guys a question regarding that fullback that I actually just mentioned, Destiny Doji. What are your thoughts on Undoji? Matthew, I'll start with you. What do you think of Undoji? How and what does he bring to Tottenham Hotspur?
So he was at Udinese, right?
Udinese, yeah.
And he's done incredible things there. Like, he had a great season before we bought him. He's then gone back on loan, and he's been a left back that's been consistently getting sort of assists and what have you. I'm looking back to when we had Kyle Walker and Danny Rose, right? And I said on the stream last night that I personally believe the best defense we've ever had was Alderweireld and Vertonghen, Danny Rose and Kyle Walker.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
And the fact was, we had two, like Alderweireld and Vertonghen were not the fastest defenders.
No.
But they were so brilliant positionally, everything else, that they didn't need to have the pace. Okay?
Yeah.
And that's what we need and what we bring in next to Romero. Okay? And if we can do that and bring in a really top quality centre-back next to Romero, then I think Udogie and potentially Porro, but especially Udogo with his pace and everything like that, it's exciting. We could potentially be looking at a back four to rival the back four we had with Walker, Alderweireld, Vertonghen and Rose. Because the reality was, Walker and Rose did have defensive frailties. We know that. They had defensive frailties, but the fact was they both had the pace to recover.
Absolutely.
They had the pace to recover. And also, one, they had the pace to recover, but two, they also knew that they had Alderweireld and Vertonghen to rely on in the middle, where they go, all right, we feel safe. If we make a mistake, I'll run back and recover it. But even if I don't quite get there, I've got these two mopping up for me as well. Yep. So I'm super excited for Udogie, because if we can build a defense as good as what we had back in, 2015, I think it was?
15, 16, I think it was.
Yeah. 16, yeah.
But if we can build a defense as good as that, and to be honest, I honestly believe that all we need is a top quality centre-back. And if we can get a top quality centre-back that's got all the attributes, such as your positioning and all that, to fit in next to Romero, then suddenly we've got Udogie and Porro bombing up the wings. But the fact is, okay, yeah, they might have a couple of defensive frailties, but they've got the pace to recover. And we could end up with a very exciting team. And I'm super excited. I mean, I'm super excited for it. I never know whether to call him a Dogi or a Doji.
Doji, yeah. All good, all good.
A Doji, right? But I am
Yeah.
so excited for a Doji, right? Because if he can do half of what he was doing at Udinese, he could be fantastic.
Phenomenal. Josh, what do you think about Indoji? How much of an impact would he have on this new Ange team?
I mean, it's just the fact of his attacking output is great. Defensive is just okay, but we've never seen him in the back four. But that's almost it's an unknown quantity. It's one of those where it's a hit or miss, and it's a good time for him to come in as an unknown quantity because this is a season that I'm not saying I'm writing off the season, but I'm not putting pressure on the team this season. I think this is a season for Ange to implement his style and for a team to grow together. That's what I want to see, is a team growing together, which is why I think it's so important to get the left centre back in. I want to see a back four that has a couple years to grow together, become a unit, not just four individuals, but a unit again, where we know the same back four is going to start every week if they're fit, which is what we used to have, but we haven't had that for so long. Every week it's a different pairing, or it's been a different set of three, or a different set of wing backs because Perisic isn't fit or Sessegnon is injured.
Yeah, but we've
unpredictable.
We've also just not had confidence in anyone, so it's like, well, you were rubbish last week. We'll try another one. Oh,
the quality hasn't just been that. We've just every time we seem to keep taking these gambles, like with Joe Rodon, like on these 10 to 15 million pound players, to try and find another Alderweireld or a Jan. We're not going out and spending in that next bracket. And the one time we did was Davinson. And I feel bad for Davinson because when he played with Toby and Jan, he was actually fine. In his first couple of seasons, he was fine. But as soon as Toby and Jan left the club, it was like a fish out of water. He just had no clue what he was doing. He hadn't quite taken the responsibility and the leadership role yet off of those two. And he was just floundering around when in that transition period under Poch.
I feel like with Sanchez, he was young. He was youngish, wasn't he?
He was.
And like 23?
Yeah. So
something like that.
I think he was younger than that.
I feel like with Sanchez that he needed the older, more responsible players and he thrived off them. And he wasn't awful when he first started. And I remember watching him in the Europa League. Was the Europa League final against Man United?
Yeah, it was United. Yeah.
And he was absolutely sensational. I remember watching that game, going, "Wow, he is absolutely amazing." I thought he was brilliant that game. And then we signed him, and I was like, "Oh my god, look at the money we've spent. That's amazing. We've got in what I think is a world-class player." But I feel like when the more experienced players left, exactly as you said, as exactly as you said, Josh, like he was just a bit of a fish out of water, and I feel like he didn't have the confidence, and unfortunately,
keyword with this whole squad is confidence.
Yeah, and I feel like Sanchez's confidence has just ebbed and ebbed and ebbed over the last few seasons, and now he's just at rock bottom.
You can see it on the ball. He hates it. He looks so scared every time the ball is at his feet. He just wants rid of it. Every single time.
What's even worse is the defense don't have confidence because of Eric Dyer doesn't have confidence. Right back didn't have confidence. Let's be honest, the right backs didn't have any confidence. Porro or Emerson both didn't have confidence. Porro towards the end of the season. Left back Perisic didn't have also confidence because of the fact the way he was playing was absolutely awful towards the end of the season. Then you look at the attack. You got Harry Kane who's on fire. That's it. You got Son who's no confidence. Kulusevski who's might have confidence here and there, but he's been lacking of form. Look, in terms of the Tottenham Hotspur, we can talk about how they don't have confidence, how the lack of quality for some people. Some people believe the Tottenham Hotspur players lack quality, but now that we're going to go watch pre-season West Ham, that's the whole match preview we're doing right now. I thought something that's important for us to touch on is some key elements, some key moments, should I say, that you want to see Ange Postecoglou implement into the Tottenham Hotspur style or into the Tottenham Hotspur team. What sort of moments or elements? Sorry, I don't know what to use. Do you want to see Tottenham Hotspur or Ange implemented? Josh, I'll come to you first. Go for it.
Okay, so obviously the first one, which is just the obvious one, is the style. You know, the patterns of play and the positional play is, I think, the most important thing. That's going to be the biggest change going from last season to this season. We're going from a team that was consistently a counter-attacking side. That's what Spurs have been since Mourinho, is a fast counter-attacking side, which under Conte implemented a bit more width, but largely didn't want to be on the ball, wanted to get you in deep into our own half and then hit you quick, get it straight to Kane, and then have the runners off of him. I want to see a big change in style. I want to see us building out the back with more confidence, starting with Vicario out to centre backs. I want to see the midfield become a bit more of a unit. I want to see what it's like with three rather than the two, because I assume Ange's going to play 4-3-3. But that's another thing I want to see. I want to see if he does 4-3-3 and 4-2-3-1, because he's used both before. So I want to see if he plays around with both of those, or whether he just wants to drill that 4-3-3 in during pre-season and get that established before he starts, changing up a little bit, depending on how the games are going. But overall, yeah, it's how are we using the wingers? How is the midfield working together? How do we look as a unit? How are we defending high up, and the press in that game? How are we pressing compared to how we were with Conte? Because under Conte, the press used to start well, and as soon as the first man was beaten, the press fell apart completely, and we just couldn't keep teams in. We'd be getting hit on the break too easily. So that's the first thing, is the style, the lineup, which I think it's the start of over this whole preseason. Are we going to see a sort of standard 11 building, like a consistent, these 11 are his starters, maybe the left centre back will change, I presume. Are we going to be able to go into the first day of the Premier League knowing who's going to be our 11? I think that's quite important. And for that 11 to build up some chemistry, get to know each other a little better, maybe implement the new signings into that. So like Maddison, see how he plays with Ndombele and Basuma. But because we've already seen in training, I don't know if you've both seen the sort of 2 training 11s from yesterday, I think it was.
Yeah.
It looked like there
It was yesterday,
it looked like the clear starting 11s and the second strings. And it was interesting to see, actually, Udogie was in the second string team and Reguilon was his starter. So that's one thing I'm looking at.
I thought Perisic was in the starters.
No. Perisic played left wing for the second string, which is another interesting thing. So Reguilon was starting with what looked like to be the first team. Udogie started left back for the second team, and Perisic started left wing. But obviously, which is interesting, because I don't think any of us expected Reguilon to even be at the club next year. So it'd be interesting to see if Ange actually likes him.
But if he does like him, Reguilon is potentially the perfect player for his system.
Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting to see, because he started quite well in his time at Spurs. He had a nice link up with Bale on the left hand side. Under Mourinho, Conte just couldn't play left wing back. Conte just clearly didn't fancy him. But again, he's another one with good pace, decent attacking output throughout his career, and he's not the worst player. He seems to love playing for Spurs as well. Every time his attitude seems great.
I think that's also what's also important. Sorry, I think the attitude that the players bring is so important, especially at a time that we are right now. As much as positives, we can bring into this whole team, we are really, really, really not in a great place right now. I mean, the table last year showed it. Statistically, it shows how bad we are. I think the only thing we can take out in terms of right now out of the clips we will see is the attitude, and like you touched on that, Josh and Matthew, the attitude in terms of Serge Reguilon, Tanguy Ndombele, Yves Bissouma, Destiny Ndoji, Harry Kane, all of them lot. It's going to tell a lot. Go on, Josh. Sorry. Yeah, what were you saying?
Yeah, well, they leads on nicely. That was my last point. That's the last element I was sort of looking for, is the attitude of the players, and who's trying to fit the system a little bit, who's trying to adapt, who's willing to change, who's willing to put the running in early doors. And I think that will help us tell who's staying and who's going, because Ange has already mentioned multiple times there are players in this preseason squad now that won't be here. They will be leaving at some point in the club. It's just how quick we can do that, which I don't trust Spurs to get it done quickly. We've been a terrible selling club the past few years. It's ridiculous. Levi seems to think that our players have outrageous resale value, which leads them to going down to their last year of their contract, and we sell them for peanuts. But yeah, it will be players like your Lo Celso's on tour, your Sanchez's, the players that we think are leaving the club. But it's just interesting to see if Ange does give them some minutes just to see, maybe, listen, it looks like Lo Celso's leaving, but does he fit one of those 8 roles, or is he going to be a useful player, which just sort of solves a problem of possibly Højbjerg leaving? If we think we're short in midfield, one of those players stays, Lo Celso or Ndombele stays and takes that role off of Højbjerg. So it'd be interesting to see.
Very, very, very true. Matthew, I'll come to you now. Key elements that you want to see. I mean, Josh, fantastic work there. I agree. I 100% agree with all what you guys are gonna say. I agree, because I don't see how you can be incorrect in this kind of question. But Matthew, what are the key elements you want to see? By the way, sorry, just before you start, just want to remind everyone at home, guys, make sure you to subscribe and comment down below who you agree with and who you disagree with. Just so we can understand who the people are linking up more towards. Is it Josh? Is it Matthew? Is it myself? And also, by the way, I was just going to mention, I just realised, Sonny's at the club for 8 years exactly. It's absolutely crazy. But Matthew, go for it. Sorry, yeah, go for it. Your key elements for Tottenham Hotspur versus West Ham.
So I think first of all, I think it's going to be really interesting to see our transitional play, defence, midfield, forwards.
Yeah.
Because we have traditionally become a counter-attacking team, which is fine when the other team is parked in our half and we win the ball and can break quickly. But what we've also seen over the last few years is that when we have the ball and the team are in a good sort of formation, that actually we really struggle with that transitional play to break through their lines. We play sideways football. We play too slow. We really struggle to penetrate the teams when we're not in that counter-attacking. Whereas under this Ange system, we now need, there'll be an element of counter-attack in there, obviously. But it's all about the quick transitions. It's about our centre-backs getting it into Basuma then passing out to Ndombele or Bentancur or Maddison. Then Maddison very quickly taking it on the half turn, getting out to Son, attack down the wing. And it's that fast transition that we have lacked over the last few years. So that transition play, I think, is super, super important. So I'm really looking forward to see how the Ange team plays with that. Completely agree with Josh. The other side of that is I want to see how well we are able to press as a team. Because, Josh, you hit the nail on the head when you said that we used to do a half press.
Yeah.
We'd literally we'd press, but as soon as the first man was beaten, the rest of the players would all just fall back and there'd no longer be a press. And you're like, well, if you don't all press as a team together, then it's pointless because the first man's beaten. We should then be pressing the second man. And I feel, again, that is a very, very key part of how Postecoglou has played at Celtic and what he's been doing. So I completely agree with you. I want to see how we press as a team. I want to see us being quick in transition, fierce in attack. But when we do lose the ball, I want us pressing high, pressing fast. And then that kind of brings me on to my third and final point, which is kind of a combination of everything. For me, the tempo. This covers the attacking side, the defending side, the pressing side. It covers everything. But I want to see us playing a fast tempo in every facet of the game. Yeah. And I want to see us developing a tempo which we have not had since Pochettino days.
Yeah.
Agreed. I don't want to be a second half team anymore. I'm so sick of the slow starts.
Second half FC, literally.
It got to a point last season where I stopped watching the first half.
Yeah, you could predict every game. Every game was the same.
Yeah.
That was going back to Mourinho days. We'd go 1-0 in 10, and then by 85, we'd be camped in our half, and we could see 2 in the last 10.
Whereas under Ange, I want us to be a team that are out of the blocks fast.
Yeah.
And it's the other teams that are struggling to keep up with us. That's what I want.
Very, very, very true. Look, I know the sacrifice of going last, so I know that I it will look like I'm copying from you lot. I know the sacrifice. I'll take it upon myself. But no. So I'll start with something that none of you lot have really touched on, and I think this is for me the most important. I want to see possession-based football. I don't want to see no counter-attacking football and no defensive football. I want to see possession-based football. I want to see the Tottenham Hotspur to, like Matthew, like you pointed out very much. You said fast-paced football. I want to see fast-paced football, and I want to see possession-based football. And when I say possession-based, I'm saying that I want Basuma. Let's say the midfielders Basuma, Højbjerg, and Madison. I want to see them three on the ball. I want to see them three holding the ball in that sort of middle of the pitch kind of area. I don't want to see the ball going past going behind towards our goal. I don't want to see the ball anymore there. I want to see the ball above that. I want to see the ball, possessed by all our players. But more specifically with that midfield area, I want to see how they combine in this West Ham game. I think that's really important, just because if we are really going to transition to new Ange Postecoglou team, that is the basic. We can play attacking football, we can play defensive football, we can play fast-paced football, we can play slow-paced football. I want to see possession though. I want to see possession. I don't want to be like Josh, you said. I don't want to see second half FC. I really don't. I'm fed up with it because we aren't. We've never been second half FC. We've always been possession based. Mauricio Pochettino. And second element I want to see in the West Ham game is the hunger and desire to win every ball. I think that is a massive element to Ange Postecoglou. He will want to see players such as Pedro Porro, who might not be tall. He wants to see the hunger and desire to reach that ball in the aerial duels. Manon Solomon, I want to see him take on 1v1 and beat the player to get an assist to Sonny or Kane. Like, I want to see that desire. And I think as a Tottenham Hotspur fan, we've lacked, we haven't seen this, desire or hunger for, making the decision last season. You look at the likes of Dyer, Lenglet. I'm specifically talking about the defense because every time there was a loose ball there, no one had a fast reaction to it. We were all very, very slow and no hunger to get the ball out. So that is my second thing that I want to see at West Ham: the hunger and the desire to win. Now, the third one, and I think this is pretty obvious, and I think it's important for us as fans to notice this, is like Matthew said, the transition from starting a back to front. I'm not gonna go over what Matthew said because I think he said it spot on. No need to. It's just I think what's also important just to add on is the tactical changes mid-game. If we are 1-0 down versus West Ham, I know it's not a massive game, but I want to see the different tactics changing during the game, like we didn't see for Conte. Conte never changed the tactics mid-game. If we were 1-0 down and we were defending, we would continue defending for no reason. So I think those are my three key elements. Now, lads, I think that was pretty solid in terms of players to watch, key elements. I'm gonna go over to the final question for everyone, and guys, I'm gonna start off with Matthew here. This is the final prediction, and by the way, just so you guys know, we are gonna now create a small little league between us. I will send in a group chat. I'll explain next video how it works. I'll send in the group chat how the league works. Basically, in a quick way, if you guess the correct goal score, it's 3 points. Okay, correct the goal score, 3 points. And if you guess the correct goal scorers, such as Harry Kane, Manuel Solomon, it's an extra point. So guys, I want to hear your goal score. And by the way, at the end of the season, we'll see who wins. And yeah, who cares? Guys, let's see. As Matthew, what is your score prediction for West Ham pre-season? Big game for us in terms of, like we will explain now, key elements, players to watch. Ange Postecoglou, what is your score predictions for the game?
So, I mean, just touching on what we were talking about, like, obviously I've got important key things I want to see, but most of all, what I want to see from Tottenham and what I'd love to see tomorrow, I'm not overly bothered about the score. But as Tottenham fans, over the years, we have become used to watching Tottenham play attractive football. And this goes all the way back to when I first started watching Tottenham. I think the first ever game I went to at White Hart Lane was 1992. Right? And I saw Tottenham play Aston Villa, and it was a 0-0 draw. But because I was a 5-year-old kid, it was the most exciting game I'd ever seen in my life. But the fact is, right, we've got used to watching Tottenham. We've got used to watching Tottenham play attractive football. Okay? And we might not win, but at least we know we've played attractive football. And that's what Tottenham fans really want. They want them to be playing attractive football. So I'm not really that bothered about the score tomorrow, as long as we get back to our way of playing good, attractive football and doing it the right way. Having said that, I think it's going to be 2-1 to Tottenham with Kulusevski and Kane scoring.
Brilliant, fantastic. And who's scoring the one goal for West Ham? Gonna put you on the spot there.
Is Jared Bowen still there?
He is.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, we'll go with Jared Bowen then.
Jared Bowen. We'll go with Jared Bowen. So, Matthew says 2-1 Tottenham Hotspur. Jared Bowen scores for West Ham. Kulusevski scores for Tottenham Hotspur. And who was the second one?
Kane.
Harry Kane scores for Tottenham Hotspur.
He loves to score against West Ham, doesn't he?
He does.
And also pre-season as well. Who knows what will happen then as well? Harry Kane, bang, straight on the goal score sheet. Josh, what is your score prediction for Tottenham Hotspur versus West Ham in Perth, should I may add?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to be the downer, and don't worry, I'm not going to predict a loss. We're not losing to them. I'll tell you that now. We don't lose to them. But I'm gonna go just 1-0 Spurs, and the reason being, pre-season for me, generally the games are fairly low scoring, and it's because you see a lot of rotation. I expect a lot of the second stream and the youth players to get a run around. You know, your Harvey Whites, your Dane Scarletts, your Troy Parrots. I expect them to come on for a decent chunk of the second half.
Troy Parrott's injured.
Is he injured?
Yeah,
no
Troy
way.
Parrott's injured. He's not on the tour.
Has he just happened? Like, as in recent?
I
thought he came back fit.
I haven't seen
that. Yeah, Troy Parrott, Ryan Sessegnon, Brian Hill, Fraser Forster, and Rodrigo Bentancur are the ones.
I knew about the rest. I didn't know Troy wasn't on the tour.
Yeah,
I feel for him because it feels like his time is running out with us to really prove himself and get into the team, which is a shame actually, because Troy came through. It feels like we've been talking about Parrott for years, and it just feels like it just hasn't really happened for him.
I feel like I think Parrott was first mentioned to me in 2017, I think.
Yeah, when he was young, and he's been on a few loans. I know he did okay at Preston, and I think he went to Dons at some point. MK Dons, he did okay, but anyway, I feel like there's going to be a lot of rotation second half. Generally, I expect the tempo to be high for a decent chunk of the game, but I don't expect the players to kill themselves, you know, especially in the heat in Perth and it just being the first pre-season game. I don't expect the players to kill themselves. I think the second half of pre-season games are usually quite dull.
Fair enough. 1-0 is decent.
And Andrew said himself, his teams start really slow because his tactics are so highly thought of and they're so difficult to master. His teams always start very slow. Even going into the season, he said, listen, the first couple months are always rocky implementing my system. But once they've got it, and they're a force. And we saw the same thing at Celtic. You know, they started pretty poorly, and by the end, were one of the most dominant forces we've seen in that league for years.
They won the treble last year, didn't they?
Yeah. And it's one of those where I think we'll see the same thing at Spurs. But I've gone 1-0. I also think Harry Kane's probably going to be the scorer. He loves to score against them. Just standard. He always does well in pre-season. It'll probably be a pen or something like that.
That is classic Tottenham. Let's be honest. I mean, penalty pre-season. Look, I'm gonna round it off and say Tottenham Hotspur 2, West Ham United 0. I think Vicario is gonna get no. I think Kane's gonna get a goal, and I think I'm gonna put him up there. I'm gonna put Tanguy and Ndombele as a goal scorer. Why not? Let's go with it. 2-0.
I love it.
I would be so made up if that happened.
I love it.
Little curler from the edge of the area. I would be so happy.
Like his goal against Aston Villa? You know what I'm talking about? Like, was it his debut goal he scored? Yeah, like a nice colour. But lads, look, it's been a pleasure to have you guys on the stream. You know, obviously you got the usuals here. Josh from Spurs Live, Josh from Spurs Live as well. Matthew from Spurs Live. We're all here from Spurs Live. Guys, thanks so much for watching. Make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, and anyone have final thoughts to say regarding the match tomorrow? Nope.
Do we go?
Just hope we don't lose.
Yeah. You know, same old Spurs. Hopefully, I don't get any more greys from tomorrow's game. Save that for the actual season. So
we can only hope. We can only hope and pray. Guys, thanks so much for watching. Make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, and we will see you in the next video. Comedy Spurs.